My husband's body surfaced. They found him, but they've never found the other two guys, as far as I know, never. And I had a baby. I had no money in my pocket.
Wow.
And I had rent due. Had 2 broken down cars.
Wow. Hi, this is Robert Wilkins, aka Basketball Tall. Welcome to my channel. You are in for a treat today. I have with me here Darlene Medrick in the great city of Ardmore, Oklahoma. She has a story that you would not believe and how it will benefit so many of you out there, not just in this country, but around the world. So I won't take up much of your time, and I'll let her tell you the story. Miss Medrick, thank you for taking the time out to visit with me about this. You know, a mutual friend of ours, Associate Pastor Jim May.
Right.
He shared a story with me that he felt that needs to be heard. And that's why I reached out to you, and of course I'm here today because your story is fascinating. But before we get into your story, just as I was setting up, you shared some interesting things with me, such as your career. And the reason I want to talk about your career just for a moment is because my channel is about giving people hope, giving them direction, letting them know if anyone else have done anything out there that they can do it too. Also, my channel is about to wake people up, because there are so many things that's going on in our lives, and they need to be aware how it may be able to benefit them in some way. And I think your story has a lot of power in it and how it could benefit so many people. But before we get there, tell me this. Now, your profession, you're retired right now, aren't you?
Correct.
And so you've been in the oil business for a long time.
Yes.
So share with my audience, how did you get involved in the oil business? Or what are requirements? What does it take to get into such a lucrative profession?
Well, my background was out of high school. I took a lot of business courses in high school. Went to work for another couple of companies that were here in Ardmore. And when Mobile came to town and advertised for, I think it was a stenographer back then, and I don't know how many people were applying for that job, but I got it. So I was happy about that. And then, as you well know, people in the oil business don't always stay put. About 5 years later, I was transferred to Oklahoma City. So that's where I spent the rest of my time with Mobile, which was about, 15, 16 years.
Wow, what a great career. And I share with you, my wife, she was also in the oil industry. She worked with Noble Energies before they closed their doors, recently. And you're talking about a great profession to have.
You bet it is.
We visited earlier when you talked about your faith.
Right.
And
I was raised in the church. My mother always made sure that we got to go on Sundays. My dad wasn't much for one to go, but my mother always made sure we got to go. And I think I was about, 10 years old when I was baptized.
When we look at today, the church attendance, seems that Christianity is getting a bad rap these days. The numbers are declining. How do you feel about that?
Terrified. There's so many people out there. One of the things that I did in my church a lot was I was on the Mission Ardmore team, and we went looking for people. I knocked on doors to find out if people had heard of Jesus and if they had a church home and would like to give their heart to Jesus. And since I got sick, I can't do that anymore, and I sure miss it. I'd give anything to be able to do something to help people learn about Jesus.
Well, from you just saying that, I'm sure you just did.
Oh, good.
Because by just acknowledging Jesus. Now, let's get into your story.
Okay.
And I know it's one of those that's hard to speak about. And wow, you know, I don't know how I would handle it. But apparently you are a strong woman because you're sitting here today and you're willing to talk about it. So if you would, share with us the beginning of this story.
Okay. Probably about 58 years ago, I married the sweetest man. His name was Don Wells. He was from Woodward, Oklahoma. First couple of years we were married, we were broke. The next year, we had a baby. But we had always wanted to go to Alaska, where his parents always spent the summers up there. And so Don wanted to go really bad. So the first year that we were married that we could afford it, we went to Anchorage, Alaska. We flew up there. He went hunting with his dad. The very first trip out, they were going up the Tyone River from Lake Louise to a cabin that was up there. And they were going to come back Sunday, and we were going to meet them on the road. It's a 5-hour drive from Anchorage into Lake Louise. And we were going to meet them on the road and picnic on the way back. And Sunday came, and we couldn't find them. They weren't there. We found their truck and the trailer that pulled their boat. They were in a flat-bottom riverboat.
So he and someone else?
He and his dad and another guy, which the other guy actually lived in Anchorage, was raised there, so he was kind of a guide, but really a friend.
And where were you?
I stayed in Anchorage with his mother.
Okay.
But originally, the original plan was for all of us to go, both his mother and the other lady. And the other lady had to work, so she decided she'd stay. And Don's mom decided to stay, so I wasn't going to go by myself with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in Anchorage with her. And when we got to the lake, here I go. We waited and waited and waited. And that was on Sunday. Monday, they kept telling us, oh, hunters have lost track of time up there. They'll be here. We waited another day, and they didn't show. And so I called Oklahoma to my parents. And, of course, my mother-in-law called the two brothers. And they jumped on planes right away and came up there. And my husband worked for IBM. And the IBM office in Anchorage practically closed down, brought a motor home, and came to the lake to help us. And we called the Highway Patrol, finally came in and started a search for them. And the only thing they found was a box on the bottom of the lake that Don and his dad had made the day they left, and it had his boots in it that had his serial number from the service.
Wow.
So they had evidently gotten caught in a wind squall, and they were in a flat-bottom boat, and so it probably filled up and they went straight down. So we stayed there as long as we could till the weather started getting bad. This was in September in Alaska.
What year was this?
Pardon me, 1969. And give me a minute.
You're okay. Take all the time you need.
I forgot where I was.
You were talking about how the flat bottom boat.
Okay.
What they found.
Finally, they had to call off the search because the weather was getting too bad for everybody. And so my folks were there to bring me home. So we came back. Don and I lived in Yukon at the time. And I had
Yukon, Oklahoma.
I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Oklahoma City, but my mom and dad were here in Ardmore, and they had my baby. I had left my son with them while we went on our vacation. So anyway, I came home. Don's brother lived in Oklahoma City, and he was an attorney. And Don's mother was she was a lovely lady. She really was, and she didn't know me very well. And I don't blame her for anything that she's ever done, but she wanted to take Don's life insurance and give it to me, $1,000 a year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a baby. I had no money in my pocket.
Wow.
And I had rent due. Had 2 broken down cars.
Wow.
And anyway,
Struggle.
Don's brother that was the attorney told one of his friends to make sure I got what was mine.
Yes.
Don had gone down to his employment office right after we got married and changed a beneficiary. And I did too, because I was working for Aero Commander at the time there in Bethany. And we both did it on the same day. But for some reason, John Hancock, who had IBM stuff, didn't get the change. So it went to Don's mother. Well, as Bob told his friend, we went to court and had to declare Don dead, and they got my life insurance for me, and I came back to Ardmore.
So nobody was.
Hold on. Give me a minute.
Yes.
I stayed with my folks for quite a while. I say quite a while, several months. And then I thought, I got to get out of here. And so I rented a house about a block away and moved out and went to work at the bank here in Ardmore. And the next August, my husband's body surfaced. They found him, but they've never found the other 2 guys, as far as I know, never. But Don's body was surfaced, and we had to have it shipped home and go through the whole thing all over again.
So from the time he was missing and the boat found other items found, how much, and then when his body, surfaced, how much time had passed?
A year.
Wow. Now, being up in Alaska, I'm sure the water's pretty cold.
Yeah. I don't know about that because his brother went up there and identified him by his dental records. Okay. And of course, there was no looking at the body when it got here. My dad wouldn't even think of letting me look at it.
Wow. Yeah. That's all you would have remembered, that image in your mind. That's all.
But I had a baby. I had a year-old baby that I had to start taking care of. And, if you don't have that, what am I trying to say, not religious background in your life,
yes.
There's no way you can make it. I did a lot of things after that. I was mad at God for taking my husband, leaving me with a baby by myself to raise. And I don't know, I kept that guilt in my mind for a long time before he ever got me back.
So how did you get over that?
Just by the grace of God.
Church family support, a lot of
Oh,
prayer.
yeah, I had all my sisters, and I had 2 sisters, and my mother and dad, and a lot of friends that I had gone to school with that still lived here in Ardmore. And, yeah, that's the only way I got over it. And then I think what the deal was, I had periods of time in there that I don't remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think I went back to Oklahoma City after that. Or I stayed in Ardmore and went to work and was transferred up there with Mobile. So, and then when Mobile's office closed up there, I could have gone to Houston, but I didn't want to take a 14-year-old to Houston by myself.
Yes.
So I let my job go.
So did you ever remarry?
I remarried then and was married for several years, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then when I came back to Ardmore, I found my high school sweetheart. And we got married, and I guess we were married about 12 years when he died. And I took care of him the whole time that he was sick. I drove him to Mayo Clinic.
Oh, in the Mayo Clinic.
Yeah, I
yes.
took him to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester and everywhere I could think of. He had a very strange disease that was incurable.
Usually Mayo deals with, heart disease.
Yeah. Well, he had open heart surgery. He had what they call Wegener's granulomatosis. It's a mouthful.
What is that?
It's an autoimmune disease, and your body attacks any organ in your body, and it attacked his kidneys. And he was on dialysis for a while, but he was able to get off of that, but then he passed away.
So, Miss Medrick, what do you want those that's watching this to take from this interview?
I want you to know that there is a life after that. After something bad happens, there's hope if you just take Jesus in your heart.
Yes, and I would say amen to that. For those of you that are looking at this right now, we all experience tragedy. We all experience a loss. And the thing about it is, we never know when things are going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball, thank God for that. But when tragedy comes our way, and for many of you watching this, it will come, many of you, your way. How are you going to handle that? What are you going to do to help you get over that? What can you do? You heard Miss Medrick, Mrs. Medrick, talked about her faith, talked about her church family, talked about her employer, they're coming together in aid, talked about the struggles that she had caring for a child and no money and bills to pay, but she still made it through. So when you think that all is lost, please listen to this story, because she's evidence that there is more to come. Mrs. Medrick, as we're about to close here, and I'm going to give you the final word, if there is anything on your heart, anything that you would like to say, not just to America, but to the world, now is your time.
If you don't know Jesus, you need to find somebody to tell you the story, and you need to accept him in your heart today.
Today. Amen.
Amen.
And thank you.
Welcome.